Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here, and take a look at the first episode of Ripley that's playing on Netflix. Now, I have never read any of Patricia Highsmith's books. I did not see the Talented Mr. Ripley or Ripley's Game, so I'm kind of going into this fresh, which is good. Plus, I really like the actor who plays Ripley. Ever since he was Moriarty in Sherlock, and I also liked him as the obsessed detective in Victor Frankenstein. Their little tete-a-tete in the middle of the film was really tense. Anyways, we start out in Rome, where a person we don't see too clearly is dragging a body down the flight of stairs. We then cut to New York, about 6 months earlier. Here we meet Tom Ripley, who is living in a pretty rundown hotel in a pretty rundown part of New York City. And we learn a little bit about his way he makes a living. Basically, he goes to this upscale part of town where this doctor practices, and then he will periodically go and pretend to open the door of the offices while the mailman's delivering down there, so that he can then pick up the mail, goes through, finds the ones that are bills being paid to the doctor, keeps those, throws the rest in the mail slot. Back at his place, he takes the addresses and names from the people that have paid the bill, which he now has, and he types up a letter from a fictitious collection agency. No, first he will type up a letter from the doctor's office. Then he will type out a letter for the collection agency. And what he does is, when the collection agency check comes in, he will then cash the original payment as the doctor, then cash in another bank the check for the fake collection agency. He's not making a lot of money because obviously he's living in a rundown place, and a private detective comes up to him and says he's been hired to find him. Now, why would he be hired to find him? Well, there's this rich client named Greenleaf, who is very interested in having him visit him. Tom takes the card. He's not that thrilled with it, but he takes the card anyways. When he gets back to his apartment, he finds someone else has left a card for him, an IRS agent. Later, when he goes to cash the checks as the fictitious doctor, his ID and the checks are taken over to the bank manager, who makes a phone call, and he knows his gig is up. So he leaves, destroys all the evidence of the fake collection agency and all the letters and checks that he had collected. Then he goes to see Mr. Greenleaf the next day. Mr. Greenleaf tells him that his son Dickie, who was a friend of Tom's years ago, is living in Italy, and he wants him to come home. He's living with seeing some woman named, what is her name? Marge. And he'd like Tom to go and persuade him to come home. All expenses paid. Well, Tom asked, why me? And he said, well, you weren't my first choice. Everybody, all of his other friends have turned me down, but they all mentioned you and Dickie were close at one time. So would you do this for me? Well, he'll have to think about it. So he goes and gets a passport and goes to see the Greenleafs, where over lunch and reminiscing about Dickie, he picks up a lot of information that he didn't have. Then Mr. Greenleaf gives him a bunch of traveler's checks, as well as, since his clothes aren't the best, he says he works as an accountant at a small business, and he's only going to be able to do this for like a short period of time, vacation time he's using for this. And so he also gets a set of clothes that he goes to one of those upscale places, charged to Mr. Greenleaf. Actually, some of it's actually Dickie's that Dickie didn't claim. But, So he packs up everything and he heads to Italy. And he, on the trip, kind of enjoys, drinking champagne and all this. While on the train to the town that Dickie's at, he writes a letter to his aunt, who has been kind of sort of keeping him in funds when he needs it. But they both hate each other, and he's just telling her that he's got a really good opportunity, not that she cares, and that he probably will not be contacting her again, which should make both of them happy. So he gets to the town where he's yet to learn Italian, but he's going to work on that. Where he goes to the post office and he finds where Dickie lives, way at the top of this hill, in a magnificent villa. So he climbs all the way up, and he gets there only to find out Dickie's at the beach. So he climbs all the way back down, goes and buys a swimsuit, then heads on to the beach, where he runs in to Dickie and Marge. And Dickie really doesn't have much of a memory of Tom, but he's a pretty easygoing kind of guy. Sure, they must have known each other. He knows lots of people he can't remember. Marge isn't too sure about this guy, Tom. But they go back to the villa. Another long climb up. That's probably the funniest part of the whole thing. Where they talk, and Tom's kind of looking around, and he really likes this lifestyle. Really likes it. He almost has a slip up, because he had learned from Mr. Greenleaf that Tom's trying to be a painter. And when Tom mentions he's trying to be a painter, he blurts out, "Oh, I know. Oh, I mean, you mentioned it once back in so-and-so's party." "Oh, did I? Oh, I must have just been thinking about it then." Marge's radar's going up now. Well, they leave, and Tom goes to he gets a hotel room. Not a bad hotel. And it looks out over the water, where he watches Dickie and Marge set off in his sailboat. And then we get the really creepy part of this episode as it ends. Tom, standing in front of a mirror, starts practicing. "Hi, I'm Dickie Greenleaf. Hi, I'm Dickie Greenleaf. Nice to meet you. I'm Dickie Greenleaf." So we know what's going on in his mind. Pretty good first episode. A little slow in places, but some really good comedy, and it gives you a little insight into Ripley, instead of with them just starting off in Italy, where he shows up and runs into Dickie. They already show he's a pretty good con man and a forger, so he's got some deviousness set up. And I'm looking forward to the next episode. I hope you are too. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.